Venezuela's former chief of national intelligence is reportedly naming names, and dozens of corrupt Democrats are at the top of the list. We're going to get a front row seat in the latest fallout from the Maduro arrest, and we're going to see precisely why so many Democrats on Capitol Hill are panicking, and why this arrest may be the first of many more to come. Hey gang, it's me, Dr. Steve, your patron professor, celebrating yet another day in the Trumpian golden age that you made possible back in November of 2024. So if you want a front row seat on how you continue to change the world in ways you never even imagined, make sure to smack that bell and subscribe button. We are now getting reports that the captured Venezuelan official Hugo Carvajal, Venezuela's former chief of national intelligence, we're getting reports that he is openly implicating a number of U.S. officials of receiving millions of dollars in kickbacks from the Maduro regime. Now, if you don't know, Carvajal pleaded guilty to narco-terrorism conspiracy charges back in June of last year, and he's currently serving time in a U.S. federal prison. Just a few weeks back, in December, while imprisoned, Carvajal wrote a letter to President Trump making allegations about U.S. government officials and CIA officers receiving payments from the Maduro regime to assist him in maintaining power. Now, in fairness, there are two conflicting reports as we speak. One claims that Carvajal did not name any specific politician or government official. However, there is now a report circulating with a list of names of particularly Democrat senators who allegedly got kickbacks from the Maduro government. Again, this has not yet been verified as of the making of this video, but the alleged list is a who's who of all the major Democrat politicians with a few Republicans in there to boot. But what's so key to get here is that these allegations are just the tip of the iceberg and the corruption of the Venezuelan regime that was absolutely rife with international corruption. In fact, you could say that corruption was the connective tissue of the Venezuelan regime, and it adversely infected governments and elections globally for over 2 decades. The Chavez regime, which came to power back in 1998 after an unsuccessful military coup a few years earlier, constituted an internationally organized crime ring hiding behind the veneer of a national government. So the organizational center of this crime ring was the Cartel de los Soles. That was Venezuela's military-led criminal enterprise where high-ranking generals, they're all identifiable by their sun insignias on their uniforms, hence the name of their organization, but they basically operated as organized crime bosses, controlling the state's oil reserves and election systems while looting trillions of dollars. Key operatives included a Hezbollah-connected operative, bringing Iranian influence into the Venezuelan government. There was another fellow by the name of Diosdado Cabello. He's the interior minister, currently leading parliament and a close ally of Castro while he was alive. Jorge Rodriguez, he's the mastermind orchestrating the entire scheme, whose sister now serves as vice president. And together, these operators orchestrate an extensive international corruption network involving strategic partnerships with China, Iran, Russia, and even terrorist organizations, transforming Venezuela into what some have called a gangster state, which was in effect the headquarters of the Cartel de los Soles, the narco-trafficking operation run by Venezuelan military generals. China, in particular, has provided over $100 billion in financing to Venezuela, representing more than 40% of total Chinese lending in Latin America. Now, these loans were structured as oil-backed deals requiring PDVSA, that's the Venezuelan national oil company, to supply crude to the China National Petroleum Corporation. However, and this is the irony, rampant corruption and mismanagement in Venezuela left nearly 60% of Chinese-funded projects incomplete or completely abandoned. Investigators discovered that contractors linked to the Venezuelan government collected bribes worth 10 to 15% of project values, laundering hundreds of $millions through shell companies and accounts in Andorra. Despite all of that, despite Venezuela defaulting on debts estimated at $19 billion and ceasing loan repayments, despite all that, China nevertheless elevated the relationship to what they called an all-weather strategic partnership in 2023, signing agreements for 600 cooperation projects. China now purchases 55 to 80% of Venezuela's oil exports, often at discounted rates to settle the debts, while providing surveillance technology, including the Homeland Card system, for social control over Venezuela's population. But if you thought the Chinese connection was bad, it's actually nothing compared to the Iran-Venezuela axis, which operates through multiple illicit channels. So in 2020, Mahan Air, so that's Iran's sanctioned airline linked to the Revolutionary Guard, they flew at least 9 tons of Venezuelan gold worth over $500 million to Tehran in exchange for gasoline and refinery parts. And that gold came from illegal mining operations in the Orinoco mining arc, where the Venezuelan military processes gold stolen from indigenous lands while exposing communities to dangerous levels of mercury contamination. Now, at the same time, Hezbollah's external security organization embedded itself deeply inside Venezuela's criminal economy. The DEA has designated Hezbollah's business affairs component as responsible for multi-ton cocaine shipments and massive money laundering schemes worth billions. So these illicit partnerships have enabled Venezuela to evade Western sanctions, all the while providing China strategic leverage near U.S. territory and giving Iran a Western Hemisphere foothold for narco-terrorism operations. This Venezuelan regime is as corrupt as they come, but in many ways, President Trump has just uncovered the real corruption, and that is turning out to be the most shocking corruption of them all. But first, gang, if you've been wanting to get into crypto investing but have been turned off by its volatility, I want to introduce you to your new best friend. Meet Block Trust IRA. They've got a super AI system that Bitcoin Magazine has named the #1 crypto technology platform in the entire world. That's among 1,500 global competitors. And what that super AI does is it works 24/7 to analyze global market data, and it predicts with uncanny accuracy the highs and the lows of crypto volatility. Block Trust IRA then sells at the highs and buys again at the lows, which mitigates the volatility, all the while you stand to make incredible gains. That's why I'm a proud client of Block Trust IRA. I've got my own account with them, and I absolutely love them, and I know you will too. So if you've never gotten into the crypto game yet, let Block Trust IRA ease you in. Click on the link below or visit turleytalkscrypto.com and find out how they can help you join the Trump financial revolution that's finally giving forgotten Americans access to the greatest crypto wealth opportunity in history. And the best part, for a limited time, they're offering my viewers up to $2,500 in bonus crypto when you open up an account with them. This is absolutely amazing. Don't wait on this. Visit turleytalkscrypto.com. That's turleytalkscrypto.com. Commentator Laura Abilene had a phenomenal post on her X feed that really gets to the heart of what President Trump is doing here with the arrest of Maduro, especially in terms of how it relates to international corruption. What she notes here is that while Democrats accuse Trump of imperial ambitions, right? He's a dictator. It's actually Trump who's the one that's unveiling and exposing the real mechanisms behind the real empire, which is the corrupt imperialism of globalism and globalist forces around the world. She notes that for years, nations like Venezuela weren't subdued by military force. Instead, these nations were drained via systematic tools like intricate debt traps from non-Western nations, along with billionaire-financed NGOs and supposedly philanthropic organizations, all of which work together ultimately to destabilize the United States. That's what all of these actors have in common. Nefarious figures like George Soros, his web of NGOs, along with Iran, China, Cuba, Venezuela. They all want two things. They want to destabilize the United States, and they saw funding the drug trade as key to that destabilization, kills 300,000 Americans a year, and they wanted to exploit the energy resources of places like Venezuela for their own benefit. So Venezuela served a twofold strategic purpose for these so-called philanthropists and the hostile powers. It destabilized the United States, all the while it helped to enrich themselves. And the irony here is that that is not sovereignty. That is not Venezuelan sovereignty. That's managed poverty. It's geopolitical exploitation. And that's the distinction the legacy media won't make, because restoring sovereignty looks aggressive only to the people who benefited from its absence. Trump, in arresting Maduro and getting this former Venezuelan intelligence officer to sing and name names, he's the one who's actually restoring national sovereignty to a people who've been exploited by foreign powers for far too long. For Trump, this isn't regime change. This is restitution. It's the restoration of national sovereignty. So what just happened in Venezuela isn't imperialism. It's Trump interrupting a globalist imperial machinery that turns political thuggery into acquisition. So no, this isn't America expanding. It's about reclaiming what was stolen. It's about reestablishing sovereignty by exposing how wealth was siphoned, who bought what, and through which proxies. It's an attack on a corrupt network of power that goes all the way back to D.C., it appears, that only survives when nations remain weak enough to be quietly owned. Because once people realize their poverty was actually engineered, that it was not inevitable, sovereignty stops being theoretical. It becomes an imperative. It becomes a reality. And that's exactly what we're seeing all across Latin America. From Nayib Bukele in El Salvador to Javier Milei in Argentina. From the recent election of the Chilean Trump, Jose Antonio Cast, to Paraguay and Ecuador, Latin America is rising and taking their civilization back. They are making South America great again. Which means Trump isn't invading. He's freeing countries from the unseen grip that throttled them for globalist gain. And Venezuela marks merely the start. Before you go, gang, if you want to be part of a community where faith, family, and freedom come alive, check out the Courageous Patriot Club. I love for you to see what this community is all about. You can watch a free preview of Turley Walks, one of my exclusive weekly series. Head on over to turley.pub/turleywalks.